Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. As some of you may know, I recently went on a car camping trip with the kids, and today's video is specifically on some of the reflections and some of the learnings I've taken away from that car camping trip. So while I'll be talking about the reflections and learnings, I will kind of tailor a little bit more towards a Sealion 7 as a car camper rather than generic car camping kind of learnings, right? Having said that, a lot of these learnings, I reckon, will be also applicable for any EV owners who are looking to use their cars as campers. So let's get straight into it. First and foremost, for those of you who are living in Singapore, you probably know this as much as I do, but this is more for everybody else. Why I actually chose to go to Malaysia to do this. So the challenge in Singapore is that while there are camping sites in general, there are far and few between. A lot of the camping sites in Singapore has a lot of rules around it, as you can imagine. So one of those are no open flame. The car park is also a little bit further away from the campsite. So it makes it a little bit challenging to actually use the car as a larger camping vehicle. You can actually use it to ferry stuff, obviously, but yeah, you can't actually park the car next to the campsite, unfortunately. So none of the Singapore campsites actually allow that to happen. Hence, I had to kind of go to Malaysia. But having said that, selecting the site was also very crucial, which comes to my first reflection and learning. While I was looking for campsites in Johor or anywhere in Malaysia, obviously there was a lot, but I needed a campsite that specifically allowed me to park the vehicle the way I wanted to kind of park the vehicle. So I kind of wanted to park on a side where I can actually then mount a tarp against it and use the car as a mounting point, as an extension to the entire campsite. So hence I picked the campsite, Cikgu Mary campsite, which is in Kota Tinggi, that kind of allowed me to do such things. So if you're looking for campsites, the one way to kind of do research like this is obviously look at a whole bunch of photos. Also kind of do a bit of research on YouTube. Make sure that anybody who's gone to their website, get a good feel of how the car parking scenario is. You can also ask the camp owners. So for my case, I actually managed to communicate with the camp owners, and I kind of asked that particular question if I was able to park my car like directly next to it. Also to mention, because it was my kid's first experience in the campsite, amenities was very important for us. So I specifically chose this particular campsite, and I also viewed the toilet situation and just general amenities to make sure that it wasn't like super hardcore for the kids. So yeah. This was a good fit. So for you guys who are looking, depending on your needs and wants, you might want to kind of go super hardcore and go for something like completely off the grid, or you can kind of go something like a beginner camping style, like what I did at this particular site. All right, the next thing I want to talk about is charging, right? I started off the journey with 100% charge off the bat. The site is about 70 odd kilometers from my house, door to door. But of course, you kind of got to factor in the fact that there will be heavy traffic at the Johor and Singapore Causeway. Although the EV doesn't take up a lot of charge, but yeah, you know what? Who knows? Just gotta kind of buffer for the unexpected. Net of it is that, just to give you a feel on charge, I was 100%, and I decided to maybe just make a quick pit stop somewhere in the middle of the journey, about 30 plus kilometers in. And that it was at, if I'm not mistaken, Aeon Tebrau, right? So Aeon Tebrau is where I took a quick breather. The reason why Aeon Tebrau specifically, because there was a quick charger there, a fast charger, a DC charger. And I also kind of factored in the fact that if, let's say, that charger wasn't working, right opposite it is IKEA, and IKEA also had a charger. So I had a bit of a fallback plan there, although I didn't quite need it, to be very honest. So I got to Aeon with about 94% charge plus minus, and I decided, why not, just top it up. So I plugged it in very, very quickly, and it got back to 100. We picked up some additional groceries and some food before we are on our journey again. So the learning. Just be very mindful when you are going to Malaysia and on the east side of Johor. Actually, there isn't a whole lot of charging infrastructure. The last few charging infrastructure is actually near the Aeon and the Mount Austin area. As you kind of leave that area, which is somewhat still within Johor Bahru, it becomes very, very risky because in Kota Tinggi, there's only probably one charging point, and then further on into the Mersing area is almost no charging point. But having said that, like I said, the car is, I mean, more than enough charge to take you across to the east side, easy, and back. But you're running, I mean, the return trip is probably about 300 plus kilometers end to end if you go to the far side of Johor. But yeah, I mean, you always kind of want to keep a little bit extra charge, part because also I wasn't sure how much charge the AC was going to use, being used as a camper. So yeah, anyhow, I charged 100%. I got to the campsite, and it was down to about 94% plus minus. So plenty of charge for what's left to come. So with that, brings me to my next conversation point, which is the AC consumption, right? We were going through a very, very hot streak at the campsite. So we actually started the air conditioning early. So the kids were in the car for a bit, on and off, turning on the air conditioning. But come nighttime, when we were ready to kind of, put the kids to bed, I think we started about 9 p.m. We had a bit of movie night and then off to bed. It came to about 1% charge for every hour of AC use. And this is the air conditioning at 24 degrees and fan speed of 1. If you ask me, it's pretty good. I think it was slightly above that, just maybe 1.1 or maybe 1.2 maybe. But it came to an average about 1 thereabouts, right? So we kind of slept for about 10 hours or so. So about 10 odd percent was taken from the charge. So there's plenty of headroom there. And we were quite fortunate. We didn't actually use any of the V2L capabilities, right? This was just pure AC consumption. Which leads me to my next conversation point, V2L. We actually brought the V2L stuff. I actually had the adapters and everything else, but I was quite fortunate. The campsite actually had electrical power. So we actually decided to use their power instead because it was part of the fee, and I didn't necessarily want to drain the car as well. But given that we were using it so much, powering fans, powering kettles, etc. Yeah, electricity is quite important in most cases. So it's a nice and good investment if you have a V2L. I strongly, recommend it. On top of the V2L, some of you may have seen from that video. If you haven't seen it, please go check out that video. I actually also have an EcoFlow, although not very large capacity EcoFlow. But it supplemented a lot of other stuff. Like for example, nighttime, I had it in the camp, powering my fan and lights and etc. Right. So yeah, power is important. V2L is definitely a very good investment if you haven't got one. How about the noise from the AC externally? Of course, internally you don't hear a whole lot of it, right? Externally, it can get a bit loud if you're extremely near to the car. So I was probably about 6-7 feet away from the car. I could hear it, but it was not super disruptive. But if you kind of put your tent like really next to it, you can actually feel the noise coming in, and there's a bit of heat emanating from the car as well, as expected. So just something to keep in mind. All right. The next big elephant in the room for some who already own the Sealion 7 is the daytime running lights. The daytime running lights, it's a massive issue because we can't actually turn it off on the Sealion 7. Unlike the Atos and Seal, I believe they have options within the console and the UI to turn it off. For some reason, the Sealion 7 doesn't allow it to happen. Initially, I always thought it was just the front, right? So I turn off all the lights and the DRL comes on the front. But I realized this trip is that not only the fronts come on, the rear brake lights also come on, right? Which was super bizarre. After a lot of trial and error, I realized this. If you turn off the lights in broad daylight or outdoors when the sun is bright, the brake lights don't come on, only the front DRLs, right? But if you go into a darker spot nighttime in a car park, when you turn off all the lights, the DRL comes on, and so does the brake light. So that's a bit of a hassle in most cases because obviously you want to be in a campsite, and if there's anybody around you, you don't want to be a bit of intrusive in general, having your headlights on and your brake lights on, which was bizarre. So because of that, I had to kind of make slight tweaks and adjustments, which brings me to my next point, which is accessories. BYD accessories are far and few between when it comes to specific for car camping. This is very different from, say, a Tesla. The Tesla has got tons and tons of, as third-party accessories that are factored and catered for camping specifically. But yeah, the BYDs in general, just there isn't a lot, right? So because of that, I had to kind of concoct and do a bit of DIY to create a whole bunch of stuff. So the first thing that I had to create was to address the DRL issue. And some of you may have seen in the camping video. Again, if you haven't seen it, go check that out. The camping video, I just showed a piece of blackout cloth that I created to actually just block out the DRL. And I had to kind of also block out the front and back of the car. What I didn't show in the video is also, some of you was asking, hey, how about, the window shades, right? How do you actually go about doing it? You know what? There's a lot of window shades that are partially shaded to shade sun, but not many are completely blacked out. So what I did was that I managed to create from the same bunch of material and just using my current window sunshade and a couple of those big clips that you clip paper on and create a temporary shelter, right? So that worked out pretty fine. It was easy. I just trace it out, cut it out, and voila, 5-minute job, right? And probably cost me $1 or $2 for something that I could potentially reuse in the future. So just be mindful, there isn't a whole lot of stuff out there. If anything, you got to kind of build your own. And I take it as a good fun exercise because, I just kind of like to make things. Coming up next, it's storage capacity, right? Of course, with the camp, I haven't done this in a long while. So a lot of things are not, optimized for camping. So a lot of things were taken from the home. But nonetheless, when I was starting to pack the car, I realized actually there isn't a whole lot of space. So what I had was a cooler, a big multi-purpose box, which I had all my cooking materials and a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, my tent, the mattresses, and yeah, some clothing, and that was pretty much it. And of course, all the camp equipment, right? I had a large table, a foldable table, 3 chairs, and pretty much that was it. I think the biggest thing that took out a lot of space was actually the car mattress and also the tent, because I bought one of those pop-up tent, so the footprint is actually quite big. Unlike the normal tent, we can pack it down. So when I was packing it, I realized, wow, and this includes the frunk, right? I packed up the frunk with most of the chairs and foldable chairs, etc. It filled up really quickly, and the back as well filled up really quickly. So just got to be mindful. While for day-to-day use, it feels like there's a lot of capacity. Actually, in reality, it doesn't. So I would think that if I kind of went for a longer trip, or I brought another person, if my wife ever comes along with us, I think a roof cargo box would probably be very helpful to store some additional materials. So something that you guys should kind of think about when you pack this, or you can go super light as well. Maybe you get a bit more space. Let's talk about the camp setup. So obviously, some of the videos you see, I have a tarp across the front of the car, the side of the car. It was very useful. It looks very functional, and it was in most cases. It was, I'm not mistaken, 3 meters by 4, maybe 3 by 3 or something thereabouts. The measurements, I can't remember. After setting it up, it looks all nice. Then I realized that actually I'm a very tall guy, right? I'm actually about 186 cm. It was a bit of a challenge because towards the car, obviously the car is a little bit lower than me, and it's aligned to the height of the car door. So every time I kind of move between the car and the tent, it's the top, sorry, it was a bit challenging, right? So I kind of got to scoot and get in and out. It was also quite tight, kind of space constraint, because the table, once you put the chairs and everything else and your cooler box, etc., you kind of need to move things around to get in and out of the car, which was a bit challenging in most cases. Not show-stopping, just needs kind of maneuver. So if I can only imagine if that day rained heavily, most of us would have gotten wet for the most part, because there was just enough shelter to cover on a hot day. But yeah, the rain was going to start spitting in. So if I kind of do it again, or you kind of need a big, more people going with you, individual tarp set up away from the car is probably a better idea. But of course, this was something that was cheap and easy, so I went with this instead. But it did look nice. I mean, if you look at the videos and the pictures again, right, it was very functional. Okay, how about the driving conditions? Of course, getting there, the normal drive, no dramas there, easy peasy, mostly, well-paved roads. It was just when we hit the rural area where we are hitting the kampong, the village, you have to be a little bit more mindful, and I kind of had that at the back of my mind as well. So a lot of the roads are not very well marked. That's for one, and one of those things that I kind of noticed also, a lot of roads are single carriage or single lanes. So why my concern is because the Sealion 7, it's a heavy car, right? It's 2.3 tons, right? And on top of that, we have equipment, gear, etc., and obviously passengers as well. So net of it is that easy 2.5 tons. So going on those roads, got to be very careful, especially during the rainy seasons, because we we were driving along and we saw a collapsed bridge, and yeah, I mean, Waze was saying, "Hey, go down this road," but there's only one road and the bridge was collapsed. So we kind of go back out and figure out another way to get around. So just little things like that could happen, and we also had a few instances where oncoming traffic meant that we need to kind of share the road. So when you share the road means half your side of the car will go on the grass, and likewise for the other party coming onto you, right? So if it's very wet and muddy, my concern was that the sheer weight of the car could mean the car sinking in to some mud or whatever, or maybe the road just isn't wide enough. Maybe there's a drain, those kind of considerations. So something to really keep your eyes peeled out for those kind of scenarios. I know it's hard to avoid, but yeah, something to keep at the back of your mind, really. So the last thing I want to talk about is what are the other accessories I brought along for the ride. I had a little bit of a car emergency kit, if you like. On top of that, I also have AAS, the Automobile Association of Singapore. I've always subscribed to it anyway. It's not just because it's a Sealion or EV. But yeah, the additional accessories include a tire repair kit. I actually got one of those. In case something happens, obviously I want to be able to repair simple punctures. Yeah, it's not very difficult. I know it can be quite overwhelming and looks difficult for most, but if you Google it, it's not a big deal. And then I also have a car jack. Understandably, for some of you who are not aware, the Sealion doesn't come with a car jack if you buy new. So you probably want to buy the car jack, and be mindful that car jack also has weight ratings. So get one that is rated for a 2-ton or 3-ton car. I also have an electric pump if I need to. What else do I have? Oh yeah, I actually have AC charging cable. Here's the thing: a lot of people might not be aware of this. In Malaysia, some AC chargers don't actually come with a cable. You got to kind of bring your own cable. So I want to kind of make sure that if there was a need for me to kind of plug the car into one of those AC chargers, I have to have a charging cable. So I actually bought one charging cable from Taobao. For you guys in Australia or New Zealand, you can obviously get it from Amazon. There were some pretty good deals on Amazon as well, but I eventually bought something from Taobao because I was ordering something else. I was quite surprised. I tried to kind of look for the local suppliers in Singapore, but everything was super expensive, and not only that, there wasn't a lot of options as well. So yeah, I had to kind of go get something from China, unfortunately. So yeah, that's always in my trunk in case I need it. It's a 5-meter AC cable, very heavy, so something to kind of keep in mind. So yeah, that's pretty much all I kind of have penned down, and I want to kind of share with you guys. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot more questions that you guys may potentially have. So feel free to leave me a comment and let me know what your thoughts are. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. As you know, I pretty much answer most of the questions anyhow. Will I do it again? Oh, it's a resounding yes. Initially, it was super tired getting back, but after the dust kind of settled, I'm kind of thinking, when's the next one? I'm really looking forward to it. Of course, it does require a lot of planning, a lot of a heavy lift, a bit of a sense of adventure/fear. But yeah, all good in the end. So as always, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one.